Hello and welcome to Out Motorsports. My name is Tyler, and if you can't tell, we're not in Washington, D.C. anymore. I have spent the last 4 days and 700 miles in Los Angeles, California on BMW's newest modern retro, the 2024 BMW R12 NineT. I've spent 700 miles on this bike as my only form of transportation the entire trip. So today we're going to go for a ride up in the mountains and talk about not what only makes this bike a great modern retro, but also a surprisingly good bike to use on a daily basis for longer trips. This is Out Motorsports. My name is Tyler. Let's go for a ride, shall we? So before we go for a ride, we're just going to take a quick walk around this 2024 BMW R12 NineT. For those that don't know, the R12 NineT is a continuation of the BMW R9T. That bike was a BMW engineer sort of pet project, and they used it as their passion project and put a bunch of high quality components onto a modern naked retro bike. And it got so well reviewed and people loved it so much, they decided to keep it going. So this is the 2024 R12 NineT, the second generation, if you will. This bike still has the oil and air-cooled 1170cc Boxer twin engine. It's the only oil/air-cooled Boxer twin engine that BMW still makes. They have it on a few different models. They have it on the R12 GS that I rode earlier in the year for a little bit, but this is sort of derived from the BMW R1200 GS or the old BMW HP2 sort of enduro bike. It makes 109 horsepower and 85 foot-pounds of torque, and it is really a thumper. This thing rips, as we'll see in a little bit. It has Brembo 4-piston brakes in the front and BMW brakes in the rear. Drive shaft typical to all BMW Boxer engines. It has S1000RR front forks on it, rebound and compression adjustable as well. And it is a very well finished, very high quality modern retro bike that competes with things like the Kawasaki Z900 RS and the Triumph Speed Twin RS. It has a 6-speed dry clutch transmission mated to that drive shaft like I mentioned earlier, which is typical to most BMW Boxer engines from back in the day. The new ones are a little bit more updated. And this bike has a few notable options. These spoked wheels are an option. It has the quick shifter, which is an option, heated grips, and this digital display that takes the place of 2 analog displays. All right, so enough talking. Let's go for a ride, shall we? Hopping on this bike, first thing you notice, this has a pretty low seat height. It is a 31.2 inch seat height. It's keyless go, so you hit the power button and then starts right on up. You immediately get that BMW Boxer rumble. The whole thing torques to the right. So immediately it is a characterful modern retro. So just making sure nobody's coming. Off we go. So forgive me for not knowing Angeles Crest Highway so well, or as well as everybody else. So this is going to be a bit of a leisurely ride for the Crest as we talk through this. But the first thing I noticed is just this Boxer engine and the drive shaft and drivetrain that it's connected to. So if you've ridden an old school BMW air-cooled, oil-cooled BMW, you know that this dry clutch transmission is a little bit clunky. The drive shaft is a little bit clunky. There's some backlash in it, and that's just something that all BMW drive shafts do, and that is just part of the character of this bike, and this one certainly still has it. And in the application of a modern retro like this, that's not something that I would necessarily consider a downside. It is easier for maintenance. You don't need the chain, or you don't need to lube a chain for any sort of chain maintenance, and it just makes this bike usable all the time on a daily basis, regardless of weather, regardless of conditions. Kind of how I spoke about before. I've been using this bike as my only form of transportation out here in LA, and it's been an absolute gem. And another reason it has been so comfortable and so nice to put that amount of miles on in such a short period of time is because it has a really pretty upright riding position. It's pretty incredibly neutral. The old BMW R9T was a little bit more leaned forward than this one. This is similar to kind of the upright riding position of like a Yamaha MT-10, which is known for its relaxed sort of riding position where you can put a bunch of miles on that if you really wanted to tour on it. And this sort of has the same vibe, same sort of characteristic. The only thing that really starts to get a little bit achy as you put a bunch of miles on this bike are your legs, and that's just because BMW has to work around this boxer engine, so there's only so much you can do with leg room. However, when you get it up here in the canyons like this, they're set up just far enough that if you're dragging peg, you're probably going a little bit too fast for a road like this. So it is incredibly capable, especially with this S1000R front suspension, compression and rebound adjustable. Closer to highway speeds, like 85 miles an hour. This bike doesn't have rubber pegs, so you start to feel a little bit of vibration through your feet, but that's not something that this engine is really known for. They're usually pretty smooth, and I think that's just because of how this has metal pegs. It's not really, doesn't have rubber mounted pegs, and I guess that's really just a style choice. Like I said, this bike is really well finished, and those pegs seem to kind of just add to the modern retro, very sort of industrial sort of design that this bike has. You'll notice a few corners ago when I kind of hauled on the brakes as I caught up to this car in front of me, I was using the quick shifter on the downshifts, and that's because this bike never has any issues on downshifts with this quick shifter. Upshifts are a little bit hit or miss. It really likes to either kind of grandpa around and shift in the super low RPMs, not really at high load, and it also loves full throttle shifting at higher RPMs, high load. But there's a bit of a middle ground in between where this dry clutch and this drive shaft sort of struggle with the quick shifter. And again, this quick shifter is an option. So you'll notice just now as I'm talking about it, I didn't use the quick shifter, and that's because going around at speeds like this, kind of the way that you would around town in most places, trying to keep up with some quicker traffic and these middle RPMs, the quick shifter is a little bit herky-jerky. This engine is the standout feature of this bike, as you might expect. Probably number 2 to the suspension and brakes, depending on how you plan to use it. And when you compare it to, again, Speed Twin RS or even the Kawasaki Z900 RS, as far as like its closest competitors in this class, it is by far and away the most characterful, the most engaging. You feel it rock the bike the way that I just said. It likes to rev out. It also is super torquey. And to me, it's the reason you buy this motorcycle, and it's one of the reasons you buy a BMW. This engine has been around for over 100 years now. BMW has perfected it over the course of 100 years. And the fact that they have kept around this air to oil cooled boxer twin and haven't thrown a water cooled engine in this is just really something I respect. It means they're still so in touch with their heritage, and same deal with this whole R12 lineup. The R12 GS is the same way, and I sort of had the same opinion of the R12 GS when I rode it. It is, in my opinion, the most authentic motorcycle BMW makes with a GS badge on it, partially because of this super simple oil-cooled engine. You always hear people say it, but this low center of gravity with this boxer engine really makes it like to switch direction when you haul on the brakes like that. I believe they're a little bit, they're slightly linked. You can feel it add a little bit of front brake when you get on the rear. You can feel it in the pedal that they're a little bit linked. I'm no speed racer on a motorcycle. I have not done really any track days, and I make a point to say that in every review that I do, because this is essentially the extent of my riding. A medium pace, some twisties, a good engine, some good suspension, just some good vibes on a good road. And this bike is all about it, and that is what modern retros are all about as well, right? This bike is so well screwed together, and you feel that at speed. I feel like you're on top of the world on like an air-cooled German airplane or something, the way that this engine just kind of thumps along. So it has a 4.2 gallon fuel tank, and I haven't had the fuel light come on yet, and I say fuel light because if you noticed, this little display doesn't really have a fuel gauge. It's I think if I had to bring up a miss for this bike, it is that it doesn't have a fuel gauge, and I think that the base gauges, the analog gauges, belong on this motorcycle. I think it's probably its biggest miss is the gauge cluster situation on this. BMWs are known for their technology, and I know BMW is high-tech enough and creative enough, and their engineering team is so amazing. I know that they could figure out a way to put a fuel gauge on this motorcycle, and the only reason I bring that up as a niggle is because this is so good at touring. The riding position is upright, the pegs are in a good position, and because there's no windshield on this at all, you get a super clean blast of air that is actually winds up in warmer climates like this, making it better than bikes with fairings on it up until about 75 or 80 miles an hour, because you just get this incredibly clean blast of air that's nice and calm, and you can kind of just lean into it, put some earplugs in if your helmet's loud, and kind of just vibe and do your thing and cover miles. And this bike absolutely does it. BMWs are known for their touring heritage with the GS and the RT, and it seems as though even when they make naked bikes like this, they can't really help but make a good touring bike as well. Not only is this bike good up here in the canyons like this, but it's also fantastic around town. That low seat height really makes you confident and not having to drop it. I had the option of a R1300 GSA, GS Adventure, and after my time on the R1300 GS last year, I didn't want to have such a tall motorcycle in a city or a town that I was unfamiliar with, because I didn't want to drop it. And after riding this for all the time I have, I feel really validated in that decision. So I've been able to lane split, I've been able to lane filter, which is legal here in California, which is a whole other story, but oh, it's so fantastic. And it makes it so easy, and it makes you confident as a rider. Whoa! To be able to, that was a rock. It makes you confident as a rider to be able to kind of place this bike in between cars and tiptoe around traffic and filter through lanes and maneuver this bike around in an urban setting. And again, that low BMW Boxer center of gravity also really helps with that. So this bike is super approachable, despite the fact that it's a dry clutch, which it's also a hydraulic dry clutch, which means that not all of the feel is there, and it's kind of a heavy clutch, if I'm honest. I have kind of small hands, and these are adjustable levers, and they're adjusted to their closest setting, and I find myself kind of having to stretch out. It's a bit of a stretch. So that, with a bit of a heavier actuation, and because the clutch is hydraulic, it doesn't really have much feel when you combine all of those things. But you get used to it, and there's a lot of motion of travel in with the clutch, so it is a little bit forgiving. And one of the fun things that I've used to kind of help tell me where the clutch engagement is on this motorcycle is the drive shaft clunk. There's just a little bit of backlash in the drive shaft, like I mentioned earlier, typical to many BMWs, and you feel or hear that backlash be taken up in the drive shaft a little bit, and that's how you know the clutch engages. It might annoy some people. It is a very BMW characteristic that I happen to find charming. So that was the quick and dirty mountain review of the BMW R12 NineT. This has been an amazing companion to have on this Los Angeles trip, and I was out here for our Rainbow Road Track Cross West at Streets of Willow and Willow Springs. So if you would like to see more motorcycle reviews, please hit that subscribe button. We have more to come. If you would like to see what's up with that Rainbow Road Track Cross West, not for motorcycles but for cars, please check us out at outmotorsports.com, where we have a whole community of LGBTQ plus enthusiasts that are pretty like-minded and like motorcycles and cars and going to the track and just geeking out over anything automotive. We have a great group of people. This has been a fantastic trip. Thank you to BMW for giving me this motorcycle for the trip. I wouldn't have rather done it on anything else but two wheels, especially now that I've experienced the automotive culture and motorcycle culture in LA. So, as always, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next review. Peace out.